Give me the go-ahead when you're ready, Jason.
My apologies. Again, I'm just trying to ascertain the nature of this problem. It's a kind of unique. The channel is up and running, so we're good on that. So if you want to proceed, oh, here we are. We're good on that too. All right, now, and in 3, and you're good. You're up and running. All's good.
Sky, if you'd please come join me at the podium. And I believe we have Nick Cooper as well, if you could bring him in.
Nixon, he's on
Great.
mute right now.
So it's my pleasure to recognize 2 young people, natives here of East Hampton, students of East Hampton High School, whereas Sky Tasman and Nick Cooper are both students of East Hampton High School with a passion for aquaculture and marine sciences. And whereas in the spring of 2022, Sky and Nick began internships with the South Fork Sea Farmers, a not-for-profit organization, as part of the science research project at the East Hampton High School. And whereas the South Fork Sea Farmers and East Hampton Town Aquaculture Department, Nick and Sky helped create and maintain the first oyster reef in East Hampton trustee waters, with the reef consisting of 50 square yards of bagged shell with a top layer of oyster spat on shell. And whereas Sky and Nick have also taken the lead in preparing and submitting paperwork for New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for 2 additional reefs in Occobannock Harbor. And whereas Sky and Nick both represented East Hampton at the Long Island Science Congress and won awards for their research on oysters and oyster reefs, therefore be it proclaimed that the town of East Hampton does hereby recognize and congratulate Sky Tasman and Nicholas Cooper for their research, innovation efforts in maintaining and improving the health of our waters, and we wish them all the luck in their future endeavors. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Scott. And Nick.
Congratulations, Nick.
Congratulations, Nick Cooper.
Thank you, guys. Do you want to make a couple of remarks, Sky?
Hello, everyone. I'm Sky Tansman. I could not have done this, Nick and I could not have done this without the incredible support of Dr. Bob Tiemann and Farley John Dunn. Their drive to inspire local youth in aquaculture and environmental science and activism is truly incredible. So thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to see where this goes, as Jocelyn Garcia will be coming another intern as I head off to college. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Congratulations, Sky. Thank you.
Does Nick want to say?
Nick, is there anything you'd like to say?
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
I guess I just also wanted to extend a big thank you to the teachers of East Hampton High School, particularly Dr. Rabito and Dr. Forsberg, who have really helped us set up this internship and have given us so much guidance in not just learning about our science topics, but also learning how to write emails and communicate with people in order to get to where we are today. So thank you to them as well.
Congratulations, Nick and Sky. We're very proud of you and the efforts that you've undertaken to help keep our community a community that's ecologically balanced and has a sustainable and bright future. So we're all very proud of you. Thank you.
Congratulations, Nick.
At this point, we'll move on to the public hearings we have scheduled. The first public hearing notice. Carol, if you would read that.
The public hearings will be held live and in person by the town board and will be available electronically by video and teleconferencing, and will be televised on local TV channel 22 and available for the live stream on LTV's website. The public shall be permitted to hear in person, but may also provide comments on the matter being heard by calling 351-888-6331. Any person or party wishing to be heard with respect to the foregoing may do so in person, by agent, or by attorney, or by written comment addressed to the East Hampton Town Clerk, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton. Comments may also be submitted to the town clerk by email to cbrennan@ehamptonny.gov. All comments must be received by the town clerk by the date and time of the public hearing. Please check the meeting agenda posted on the town's website for any changes and for updated information. Notice is hereby given that the town board of the town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing at Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, on Thursday, August 3rd at 2 p.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard, to consider comments of all persons regarding an amendment to Chapter 255, Article 4, Natural Resources of the Town Code of the Town of East Hampton, an abstract of which is as follows: a local law amending Chapter 255, Section 255, 429, emergency activities.
Thank you, Carol. Do we have a sign-up sheet? Does anyone wish to address the board on this public hearing?
We have Brian here as well.
Oh, Brian, you want to give a brief introduction? I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board. Brian Frank, Chief Environmental Analyst from the Town Planning Department. I'm not sure how much detail you'd like me to get into in this review here. This is to discuss changes to the town code that have been discussed at two prior town board work sessions, one in April, a follow-up in May, and the changes as they're drafted now reflect comments from the board and really to date. As you know, these, and as was read into the record, this involves changes to 255, 429 of the town code. That's the section that authorizes emergency activities. That section was adopted into the code in 2007 as part of the coastal legislation, which was the final linchpin in terms of the Department of State accepting or ratifying the town's LWRP, which was originally adopted by the town board in 2001. So that was an important missing piece that needed to be completed. And those emergency activities articulate 4 activities that can be undertaken with the authority of the building inspector in emergency circumstances. Of those, the use of geotextiles are the only activity that's really truly temporary. The others, in terms of repairing a structure, doing a non-structural restoration, would be permanent or at least semi-permanent, but don't have a necessarily a sunset date associated with them. We discussed at the prior meetings that these are not the sandbags that you fill up with a shovel and a wheelbarrow, and you've seen in other areas of most often riverine or inland flooding, but they involved a 1 cubic yard, 3 by 3 by 3 geotextile fabrics that are filled with sand. They weigh close to a ton each, and they're woven or tied together to basically form a seawall. The intent of that provision of the code was to allow for their temporary use on a short-term and definitive basis, really to prevent imminent damage to a structure imperiled by erosion. The law doesn't say anything about the time of year that they'd be authorized, but the damaging erosion that we tend to associate with these activities tends to come in late fall or throughout the winter. This tool gives the building inspector the opportunity to allow somebody to protect a structure really until that severe weather of winter, even into early spring and nor'easter season, abates, and more long-term solutions can be put into place. It became apparent over time that the law was not functioning as intended, that the temporary nature of, by the intent of the law, which allows for a 6-month duration, a 3-month extension, and requires a removal plan as part of the requirements for the issuance of the building permit. Again, it just, bless you, just was not functioning the way it was designed. And both the discussions and the changes to the code that we have now in front of you that are subject to the public hearing are intended to address some of those shortcomings that were identified. In short, I'm just going to summarize what the law, the changes to the law are, and then available to any questions that the members may have. But the revisions will allow the building inspector to consult with different town departments to determine if the structure is in imminent peril. There was a limitation for just the town engineer and the fire marshal in the existing code now. It allows the building inspector to consult with an engineer other than the designing engineer or the designer of the geotextile structure. It limits the length of the geotextile to what's necessary to protect the house or a principal structure, as opposed to the flexibility that maybe, or the non-specificity that the code has now that allows it to span the width of the property, and requires a posting of a security equal to no less than twice the construction cost to effectuate its removal, and requires an access easement to permit entry onto the property to remove the structure if it remains beyond the permitted duration. That's in a nutshell, and I'm happy to answer any questions from any of the members that I can.
Thank you, Brian. We have no one signed up for this public hearing, but I'll take by show of hands anyone present who wishes to address the board at this time. Yes, sir. Okay, it looks like we have 3 folks that want to address this.
Good afternoon, Town Board. Joe Karpinski. In regard to the changes to 255 and the geotextile legislation, it brings several questions to light. You're not changing letter F, and that makes the town have an obligation to enforce the town code, remove an illegal structure like there is in the middle of Bayview Avenue currently, as well as restoring our beach at the expense of these homeowners, since there wasn't any site remediation bonds, whatever the cost may be. The town is not enforcing Town Code 91-4, letter G and H, which triggers the police, marine patrol, and code enforcement, because when it comes down to it, you guys did not sign off on our road being blocked. There's been no enforcement of Town Code 141-14, which is the removal of dangerous buildings and structures. We've asked the fire marshal to do this, as they're also in geotextile legislation and are going to remain. There's been no enforcement because with this uniqueness of our road specifically, not speaking of the ones on Cranberry Hole Road, where there is one that I believe is past expiration of 10 years. I believe they're in year 11. One should be at 9 or 10, and the other one should be coming up for new reapplications currently with the DEC. That being said, since we are an urban renewal road, there's been no enforcement of Town Code 232, urban renewal, penalties and violations. The town has sent letters to these homeowners and their agents over the years, March of 2019, April of 2019, and also in July 7th of 2020, First Coastal themselves were sent letters 30 days to remove or face legal action. They passed the 3-year mark. Under penalties and violation, then First Coastal should be facing a 6-year prison sentence if you're going to do any imprisonment, within a $1,000 fine, which would be over $150,000 currently for each of those properties. The town should not remove the town engineer because of the uniqueness of what happened on our road. Tom Talmadge always swore that he wasn't involved in anything that happened here. He should have been involved. One of the homeowners tried to reclaim the 15 feet of the middle of the road, and Vinny Gordiello, your now town consulting engineer, on July 8th, 2021, said that this road should remain open for public access to the beach. As we know from the LWRP, it says we are a private road, but it does have public access. You can go back to Town Planning Department notes in 1991. There's the Steele document, which is Town Nature Preserve, 129 Bayview Avenue. You can go through NOAA and the Department of State, both having those documents in 1998. The shortening of the structure should be around the home. I do agree with that. That is a good provision to put in there. The town must pay attention, though, with these structures, if they are in an area where they are prohibited, like they are in our area on our road. To the best of my knowledge, that's how I read what the legislation already has in it. So they should not be built. And they should be met with the most scrutiny. The requirement of site remediation bonds is something I advocated for years, going back to 2019 through 2020, when 153 Mulford was in front of the ZBA. On those emails, I had Councilman Lease on those emails. The ZBA, they had another meeting in February of 2021, brought through to May 11th, 2021, where they said they were going to take that up. Thank you for bringing it forward in August of 2021, where you guys also specifically spoke about our road, and Sylvia Overby, Councilwoman Overby, said, it was her understanding that our road was blocked by the cubes. Once again, triggers the fact, I know you guys were never involved in this in the beginning part. The addition of the planning department is a good one, as they should mitigate any actions taken by the principal building inspector and anything that they may or may not know with the areas that they're dealing with. The town fire marshal, of course, we've asked him once again to removal of dangerous buildings and structures. We're happy that they remain in there, but of course we have a 7-foot fall currently in front of Bayview Avenue because of the erosion that's taken place, and no sand ever put back over the cubes. No sand attempted, well, was attempted once to have a meeting. That was in April 19th of 2022. And nationally, I'd just like to say, it's approximately a 12% deaths all occur from about a 6 to 10 foot drop. I believe it's 11.7 to be exact. but there is an endangerment in our road. It is a non-ADA compliant structure. And at this point, I have reached out to the Department of Justice for anything that they would like to do moving forward with this, since that structure remains. Also, I'd like the town to be aware, which should be added in or should be something moving forward with the spring high tide. And if they're landward of any of these homes that seek an emergency activity. If they are landward during the spring high tide and the water's landward of the properties, this would trigger the Army Corps of Engineers, which would trigger the Department of State, and then there should be federal permits that should be put on each of these properties. Once again, the structure on Bayview has no permits at this point from the town or the DEC, though I have been made aware that both the town and the DEC have new applications in front of them for permits. And the only thing I would ask is why, when these homeowners haven't listened to anything that they've been asked to do or adhere to any letter or the permit that they've had. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you, Joe. Who would like to speak next? David?
Good afternoon, David Buda from the Springs. I am not personally particularly familiar with this location that Mr. Karpinski often speaks about, but I do want to ask you, and perhaps the town attorney will be the one that actually should respond, but I just want to ask you to confirm that it's your understanding that this ordinance, new local law, when it goes fully into effect, that it will be able to be enforced prospectively and will have no impediment to being enforced with respect to existing structures. Being that it is a police power enactment, I would think that any existing structures that might be in contravention of the provisions of this law would be subject to its provisions once it goes into effect. I would just like to have someone from the board or council just confirm what your intentions are, so everyone knows going forward what should happen.
Yeah, I think that's correct, Mr. Buda. It would apply to structures that are illegally existing as of the date that the law goes into effect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buda. Yes, sir. Afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Supervisor and Board. I am Nick Greco from Amagansett. Today's hearing is over proposed changes to the language of the emergency section of the code. Over the life of this issue's debate, I've reached out through email, spoken to some of you, have spoken twice at public hearings, and been very specific in my concerns about these changes, which I will restate today. At the initial presentation made by the board to the board by planning stated that the code is not adequate to ensure that structures are used as intended. Planning also emphasized to the board that this was forward-looking legislation, but acknowledged that in order to move forward, one must also look back. In that regard, some of my comments today include looking back at 5 properties, 3 at Cranberry Hill Road and 2 on Bayview Avenue, as an indicator of the conditions homeowner in future might face and the applications that the town will need to review. My forward-looking comments today are geared towards homeowners who are being responsible in the use of geocubes and seeking appropriate, sustainable, and permitted solutions. The language up for hearing today doesn't address the issues that I previously mentioned and doesn't even address the board's own concerns at the May 2nd work session. The language still does not address the short-term nature of the permit and continues to make the code section unnecessarily restrictive in nature, in my opinion. Per planning, the intent of geocubes is to prevent the short-term damage and put a Band-Aid solution on a problem until a more permanent solution can be worked out. That's from the ZBA hearing. The supervisor apparently agrees. As they noted, the intent of the geocubes is for a temporary stopgap measure to give the property owner an opportunity to secure the principal residence until other plans can be made. Then the supervisor described at length coastal processes and how erosion is a natural process that maintains our beaches. Property owners who have lost 185 feet of property in front of their residences on Bayview Avenue and up to 80 feet on Cranberry Hill Road would probably differ with that opinion as not applicable to their properties. So the supervisor also went on to say that public benefit should outweigh private interests in this matter. Again, I think I know 5 property owners who would disagree, along with the homeowners who will seek temporary protective measures in the future. Will the town be seeking to purchase these properties at market rate? Sure, that's an option for willing sellers, but what about those who love this town and the shoreline? How will those properties be fairly treated and handled? It seems to me the town is trying to legislate out adequate time frames for responsible homeowners to react to the environmental conditions. At the May 2nd work session, a board member stated that homeowners need to understand that they have a time limit. They need to have a plan. And I agree with that statement, but not with the solution that's on the table. I don't agree to legislate the time limit. Both the public interest and the rights of property owners can coexist if real effort is made to alter the legislation in a meaningful way. The discussion from the May 2nd work session included 2 members voicing their opinion for an additional 3 months. If the homeowners especially are making a real effort. The supervisor also emphasized to the planning department public comment related to the adequacy of the 9-month period, and that some homeowners have limited options for their imperiled properties. Instead of planning answering these questions about the average time it takes for a shoreline property to even be heard at the ZBA, the only response to those issues was that as an option, coastal restoration projects, when combined with other measures, could be effective. I think the 5 property owners referenced with geocubes would differ about the effectiveness of coastal restoration projects at their locations. A board member asked the planning department their thoughts on the 12 months being adequate, on 12 months, not the 12 months. Again, planning skirted the question, but only stated that's an option, but further going on to caution the board that they should not include any caveat to the permit that would allow easy circumvention of a hard deadline. Planning and the board are not addressing the actual time required for design, application prep, septic design, environmental review, variances in permitting, let alone actually performing the work within 9 months. Even the length of time to plan and execute moving a house back, which is one of the stated options, is not going to be done in 9 months. If the code language was fairly worded, it could very accurately and specifically spell out the conditions required for a permit extension to be issued. Some dialogue was also had about sea level rise and the general safety of shoreline properties, given the increasing severity of storms. Both of these issues are real, but should be considered at the discretion of the homeowner. These issues are not relevant for the discussion and the action the board is taking for the code section in question. A board member further opined that soft solutions have successfully been employed at many locations. This may be true in some cases, but as planning pointed out, there are many unique conditions that affect different properties. So soft solutions, which is fairly limited to beach nourishment, are not always effective, as in the case of the 5 properties noted. This, again, should not be otherwise weaving its way into the discussion about altering the language or about finding sustainable long-term solutions to imperiled structures. That is the real subject of this issue. Assuming that the post-management plan addresses how a homeowner will seek a more permanent solution, and the plan is being undertaken, what will the town seek to do when the 9-month permit expires, and why? Member Lees asked what allowances would be made in this regard, and the supervisor's response was that a hard date for removal is important. This opinion is not reflective of real-life, unique conditions faced by these responsible homeowners. In their presentation, planning acknowledged that it's hard to speak to this issue in a one-size-fits-all context. Because of differing erosion rates, the amount of land available, all properties are not equal. Agreed. Basically, every project and every location, every property is unique. Planning also acknowledged that homeowner options include not only the stated options in the code, in the emergency section, but remedy through the ZBA. I think everybody knows that applications before the ZBA take years rather than months to fully complete the process. For these reasons, the code should allow for discretion in order for the town officials to deal with the uniqueness of the problems and potential solutions available and not force the removal of the protection without time to implement the solution so that due process and the rights of property owners are protected. Between the last work session and today's hearing, it's not clear what, if any, further discussion was had over these issues, especially since the proposed language today includes none of the discussion in terms of a longer discretionary permit extension based upon those diligently for pursuing their post-management plan. Now that these are brought to light, I'm hoping to hear how the town board will address these shortfalls in the language. I'd really like if the board would respond to any of the points I just made, such as why the town would not extend a permit and force the removal if a person is diligently pursuing that post-removal management plan.
Thank you, Mr. Greco.
Mr. Supervisor, this is a public hearing.
And we are listening to you. Do you have any further comments?
I have no further comments, but I was hoping to have some dialogue about an answer.
This is not the purpose of public hearing.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board? Thank you. Can you please come to the podium and state your name for the record?
Hi, my name is Ramesh Vardas. I'm the chair of the town's Waterfront Advisory Committee, and have been for some years.
Are you representing that committee or yourself in this discussion?
Well, the committee has had extensive discussions and talked with planning in the formation of this revision to the code, and I guess I'm representing the committee's view at this point. Although we have not had a meeting specifically over these changes since the hearings have started. The primary concern, I think, has been over a mechanism to ensure the removal of these structures in a timely fashion. And the requirement of the bond, I think, is probably the principal advance in the code and really a necessary one. I was involved in the original drafting of these provisions, and I remember at the time, which I think was in 2006, that one of the then town attorneys advised against the institution of a bond, feeling that it was not something that the town should require. And I remember arguing in favor of that bond at that time. And I think that view has, proved correct, that if there are no teeth to enforcing a provision like this in the code, they will not be enforced. And I've walked that beach for many years along Cranberry Hill Road and other areas that would be affected by this. And it is, I think, pretty clear to anyone who has looked at it, the deleterious effect of those structures, which are certainly anything but temporary at this point, and their effect on the beach in those areas. The overall approach of the LWRP, of the Local Waterfront Management Program, has been the preservation of public resources and using natural features to protect the shoreline. And these emergency provisions, they were kind of stretched at the time to include the geotextile tubes. And those geotextile tubes, I think, in the interval have proven to act as hard structures. I don't think there's too much question about it. The designs have changed over time. They're now these, instead of the what were originally called long guard tubes, which were the sand-filled tubes similar to what were buried under the dune in Montauk, are now being delivered in GeoCube bags filled with sand and stacked. The requirements for keeping them vegetated have been ignored in many cases that I've seen. So that I believe that the emergency provisions have been so misused in the interval that it really is time and overtime for corrective action to be taken. And I would encourage the board to enact these changes in the provision in hopes that they will preserve our shoreline and the public resources of our beaches in ways that have not been occurring in the interval. This is, 15, almost 20 years that we've had to see the effects of how this ordinance has worked out. And I think the problems have become fairly obvious. So I encourage you to go forward, and especially with the requirement for bond, which I think does put some teeth into the removal requirements. I understand the property owner's concerns about timelines and the difficulties of getting things done, and maybe there are adjustments to that aspect of the changes that will make it more comfortable for people. But on the other side of that, I think having participated in the CARP study, which has now been adopted by the town, it's very clear that this is going to be a recurrent problem. It happens more in reactions to storms than the incremental rise in sea level, but that is going to be for the next decades pretty baked into the dynamics of our shoreline and the town. And we will need additional ways to address that, but I think the hazard areas along the town shoreline will have to be continually looked at, and these policies will probably need further adjustment as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board on this public hearing? Do we have any callers on the line that would like to address this public hearing?
We have one caller on the line. We'll see if they wish to address this. Hello, caller ending 4221. You are on the air.
Good afternoon, Town Board. This is Jane Mearing in Amagansett. Before you hit the timer for me, I just wanted to let you and LTV know that your YouTube stream is running, I think, at least a minute behind what I'm hearing on the line live, and so you just may want to keep that in mind when you go to call in, ask for call-ins for the next public hearing.
Thank you. That's very odd. I checked it.
Portion.
I checked it earlier. I'm not exactly sure how that's happening. We had. I'm actually just checking it again right now. And on our end,
I've been watching it.
I know it seems that there's a difference between certain people in certain areas and others, because right now it's only about a few seconds, and then at other places it might be due to high network traffic in East Hampton. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I can possibly think of right now. It's just a hypothesis. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to flag it because if anyone's following online and knowing when to call in, just how it works.
Completely understood. Thank you.
So good afternoon, Town Board. Overall, I wanted to speak in support of the Amendment 5 point. More specifically, I would like to raise the following points and suggestions, if I may. And I'm working off a document that was posted in the file related to work sessions and public hearings. So Section A, I'm actually wondering if and when it would be the right thing to do or a need for some sort of public notice or direct notice of neighbors when one of these applications come in. With respect to point B, page 2, point 4, it talks about the need to consult the planning department, environmental, fire marshal. I would say perhaps make it an and not an or. Section C, page 2, where it states about the authorizing or refusing an application within 5 days. Respectfully, if I may, that sounds like an unrealistic time frame, given A, the workloads that we know beset the building inspector and the other agents of the town, and B, the need to consult and coordinate with other town departments and possibly consult with an outside engineer. This will, not ensure proper scrutiny, and I think you're backing yourself into a very, very difficult for these complex situations that do need a lot of scrutiny. I don't know what the right number is, but it seems like it should not be anything shorter than 20 business days. Section D, page 3, now just a little thing in point 5, what's now point 5, perhaps you might want to, when referring to the building inspector, change it from his to his or her or they. And then within D, point 6, I'm not sure why an as-built survey may be required. I'm not sure why it won't definitively be required. I also think within D, perhaps in section D, you might need another added point, perhaps between 3 and 4, that placement of the tube or system will not impede or block or restrain or something like that public access where applicable. And then section F, you talk about section F, I think Mr. Karpinski referred to this. This language has been in place. I understand it's not to be taken lightly, but I think, using that quote power granted to the town is very important going forward. I also agree this issue about the time frame. It does seem that perhaps the town may want to think about, for any person who's got or needs or is applying for one of these structures, that if they have if they're not already in violation and they have a legitimate application that is before the zoning board, perhaps there is some provision for some extension. And then lastly, anyone who purchases a shoreline property or receives in this town for work on a residence on any body of water should probably be made aware of and sign an acknowledgement of this legislation at their closing or receipt of the building permit. So thank you again for hearing my thoughts. This is an important step forward. I hope it will be just one of more zoning amendments this board will consider and make related to all coast or shoreline development and the important need for resiliency. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Jason, do we have any other callers on the line?
We have no other callers on the line.
I'll entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Carol, if you'd please read the next hearing notice.
Mr. Supervisor, may I make a motion to combine public hearings number 2 and 3?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Carol, if you'd please read both hearing notices.
If I also may just add one small thing. I've been brought to my attention that the YouTube stream is up and running, the channel's up and running. Our personal live stream, on ltv.com, .org, that's the only thing that's down right now, but everything else is streaming. The channel's good and YouTube is good. Just want to make sure that was on public record.
Thank you, Jason.
Take notice that the Town Board of the Town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing on August 3rd at 2 p.m. in the Town Board Meeting Room, Town Hall, 159 Panic Road, East Hampton, or soon thereafter, as this matter may be heard on a proposed local law providing for the adoption of a revised community preservation project plan pursuant to Section 64E of the New York Town Law, which provides for the preservation of open space, historic places, and recreational areas within the Town of East Hampton, including the incorporated villages therein, to include approximately 2.04 acres of land located at 45 LaForest Lane, Narragansett, reputedly owned by Richard Smalian as receiver and identified on Suffolk County Tax Map as 300-126-114.31. Take notice that the Town Board of the Town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing in the Town Board Meeting Room, East Hampton Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, pursuant to Section 247 of the General Municipal Law and Section 64E8 of the Town Law of the State of New York on August 3rd at 2 p.m. or soon thereafter, as this matter may be heard, to consider the following: the town's acquisition for the preservation of open space with community preservation funds of a property located at 45 LaForest Lane, Narragansett, reputedly owned by Richard Smolian as receiver and consisting of approximately 2.04 acres of vacant land at a cost to the town of East Hampton not to exceed $1,550,000, plus reasonable survey, title, prorated tax, and recording charges. Said property being described on the Suffolk County tax map as 300-126-114.31, amendment to the 2023 CPF Management and Stewardship Plan to include said property.
Thank you, Carol. Do we have Scott Wilson on the line?
Yes, you do.
Good afternoon, Scott.
Let me tell you about this property. So if you can see on your screen, it's the parcel that's outlined in blue. It's right at the end of La Forêt. It's off of Old Stone Highway. And it's actually a beautiful piece of woodland. It's primarily made up of a high-quality oak and beech forest. The parcel lies over the Stony Hill Aquifer. It's a water recharge overlay district. It's also in the South Fork Special Groundwater Protection Area, as well as being in the East Hampton Pine Barrens. The parcel is adjacent to and in proximity to significant woodland blocks of protected lands owned by the town and Peconic Land Trust. If you'll recall, we had a public hearing recently. It's also adjacent to two additional parcels that we're currently in contract to acquire just to the north. I don't know if you can see on my little cursor, but it's these two above. Preservation would increase the amount of contiguous forest land, protect groundwater resources, and protect habitat for threatened species of flora and fauna. This property meets the criteria set forth in Town Law 64E. For these reasons, I would ask the board to pass a resolution adding this property to the CPF project plan and further resolution to acquire.
Thank you, Scott. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board? Yes, Mr. Buda.
Good afternoon, David Buda from the Springs. It seems that of late, the town's CPF acquisition program seems to be focusing in on properties that are mired in highly contentious litigation, such as this one, and there's another one that you're about to propose to purchase later today that's also been involved in longstanding litigation between various contested parties. I know this admonition probably isn't necessary, but it's my understanding, and it's sometimes difficult to ascertain the current status of litigation, but I believe that this litigation between the former spouses, Mr. and Mrs. Smolian, may currently be on appeal and may not be in that sense have reached a final judgment that's unappealable. Other than that, to double check on the status, which I'm sure you will when you get your title report, I want to just, since Hugh King wasn't here to give you a history lesson, I wanted to give you one of my own concerning this property. Because sometimes you get the impression that the offer of these properties to the town for acquisition is purely, what's the right word, selfless on the part of the owners. I want to read to you a little bit of a description of this property from the litigation that was filed by Mr. Smolian against his former wife. The property was acquired in 2004 for $85,000. They owned the residence, they owned this property, the vacant property, and the adjacent improved property jointly, each as separate lots. And then what happened was the town, out of its concern for the environment, concern for groundwater, went through the process of updating the comprehensive plan, which started, if I recall, in 2003 and ended in 2005. And in order, I'll just read you right from the complaint. The title to the Amagansett lot, being the one that you're about to acquire, was transferred from the plaintiff, Mr. Smolian, and the defendant jointly to Mrs. Smolian individually. The transfer of the fee title to the Amagansett lot from the plaintiff and defendant jointly to the defendant singly was not intended to eliminate or diminish the plaintiff's equitable interests. The transfer of fee title to the Amagansett lot from the plaintiff and defendant jointly to the defendant was done solely for the purposes of preserving the Amagansett lot as a single and separate buildable parcel and to avoid the merger of the Amagansett lot with the parties adjoining improved lot that would have resulted from the town-wide upzoning done as part of the town of East Hampton's updating of its comprehensive plan, which process began in the early 2000s and was formally adopted and implemented by the town in 2005. Had title to the Amagansett lot remained with the parties jointly, at the time the town-wide upzoning became effective, the Amagansett lot, the one they were about to purchase, would have automatically merged with the neighboring improved parcel as a matter of law. Well, it's certainly not unlawful to preserve the singular and separate nature of parcels so as to prevent a merger as a matter of law. But it's just interesting to note that if the town's comprehensive plan upzoning of this area had been allowed to be implemented, then this parcel would have become part of the adjacent parcel, and that what didn't happen because the owners chose to use the system to their advantage to preserve the ability to own it, transferring the property from Mr. and Mrs. to Mrs., has resulted now in a lot of litigation, and I won't go into all the details because it's really not relevant, but you should really make sure that the judgment is final at this point so that Mr. Smolian, as a receiver for him and his wife, will be able to convey good and clear title. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Anyone else wish to address the board on this public hearing? Do we have any callers on the line who wish to address the board on this public hearing?
No, we do not. We have no callers on the line.
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. That brings us up to the public portion where any member of the public may address the board on any topic. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. David?
Good evening, or good afternoon again. When Jane Marion speaks, I'm always listening carefully, and she said something this afternoon that triggered a thought that I should bring something to your attention, especially since you have a new town attorney of recent vintage. I have always been concerned that, and I've raised this with all the several prior town attorneys, that I'm concerned about the lack of notice that is required to be given to adjacent affected property owners when there is an application for a modification of the urban renewal map. There simply is nothing in chapter 232 that requires notification to anyone. You pay your $150 fee. It goes before the town consulting engineer. It goes to the planning board. There's no notification to anyone. In fact, there was a matter that recently came before you, when it reaches you as for a public hearing, where someone called me the next day, a neighbor, and said, gee, I didn't know anything about that. I was just watching LTV and I wish I had known about that pending application. I would have come in and spoke. So I've raised it before at least 2 other prior town attorneys. So Mr. Connolly, I'm going to see if you can follow up on my suggestion to consider whether some type of notice should be required for that process. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Anyone else? Any callers on the line?
We have no callers on the line. What? Yeah, we have no callers on the line.
All right, I wasn't quick enough. Good afternoon again, board. Joe Karpinski. I just want to bring up some other issues to light. One, thank you, Councilwoman Rogers, for the meeting with you and Francis Bach about Nat Peak Harbor. I do hope that moving forward that will become something that gets done sooner than later. Councilman Lees, thank you for your efforts to try to make sure that the trees are taken care of in Nat Peak. I'd also suggest potentially, besides along the highway, the area down towards us. Certainly, I haven't seen, it looks like there's going to be more of a spread, but I guess we'll see more coming into the fall, how much further that's gone. I'd also like to say I've sent in I've sent in a lot of FOIL requests. Not a lot of them are getting answered. Some are getting answered, some aren't. And I'm getting a piecemeal, or I'm not getting any response on some things. Some are coming up on 3 months since I've sent them in. But speaking of a FOIL request, I was given one the other day from Town Clerk Brennan, and when I received it, it was kind of surprising to me because we had a party on our road that ended up having an RV, approximately 17 cars, security, photography, tents, and we were blocked in our driveway. So I figured I'd call up code enforcement. Code enforcement came, and they said, no worries, they have a permit. After I received your letter yesterday, there was no permit. So I'm kind of miffed over the situation. That being said, with permits and permits moving forward, now it's still my belief, though I believe the town thinks a little bit differently. We are an urban renewal road. For anybody to gain a building permit or access to a building permit, they should be granting a road widening easement first before they're granted anything to do a road assignment, as you're supposed to do that to actually build. And when you build upon your property, then you're supposed to do your UR map modification to get your proper C of O. That's the way I understand it. I don't know if you guys believe that to be the same. I know that the planning board had a meeting the other day, and unfortunately, from some stuff I wrote in, it ended up making them have about a 45-minute discussion on it. That being said, some of the road work gets done before anybody even gets the building permit, and some things are still in front of the ZBA. And to the best of my knowledge, with the unique area that we live in with tidal marshland, they haven't presented anything to Kevin Jennings at the Wetlands Division. But I've also been told by the building department, some structures, like my own, which I live in a pre-existing non-conforming structure, and some people who have that have been told that they have to give up their rights to the road, and other people who have one have been told they haven't. And they've been permitted a building permit, built a new home, have been given a new permit to build even more on that home, and they still haven't granted anything to the town of East Hampton. Yet they're on the rental registry, yet they're living in the home, and they haven't had to abide by any of the same laws that the rest of us do. I didn't think this was germane when it came to Town Code 255, but I will say this, just so you are aware, when it comes to the DEC permit, item D of the DEC permit, you have no right to trespass or interfere with anybody's riparian rights. As I've stated continuously, as it's now 1,851 days, Bayview Avenue is still blocked. That's a 30-foot stretch. I'll remind you, when we talk about those as well moving forward, you have some of their agents and people who have built the structures and the engineers for the structures who have stated that they don't recommend putting any sand back over the cubes. And I think that's it for me for today. But thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board? Do we have any other callers on the line? Jason?
We have no callers on the line.
That will conclude public portion. Thanks you for your participation. We'll go now to resolutions. Kathy, you have resolutions to offer?
I do, starting with Resolution 2023-1070. It's approval of the warrant. Claims total $4,424,057.40. And the utility warrant totals $86,742.16.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1071 is to appoint Deputy Town Attorney Jamison McWilliams at an annual salary of $125,000 for a 40-hour work week, effective August 16th through December 31st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1072 is to authorize a transfer from the YMC reserve and to do a budget modification. This is for the pool starter blocks that are needed to be replaced. In the lap pool, they're the original starting blocks. We had hired McLean, and now we're looking to purchase the starting blocks off contract. So we're moving $56,570 from YMCA reserves to building improvements for the rec center.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
1073 is a notice to bidders, EH23-033, supply and delivery of food service and miscellaneous food items. Bid is available August 3rd and due back August 17th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Just a question. Can I do this resolution if it's a reimbursement to me?
I would let someone else do it. I'll do it. Authorized payment, Kathy Burke Gonzalez. This is resolution 1074. And this is for the Anti-Bias Task Force would like to purchase a flag. Total amount is for $19.95, and that would be a reimbursement again for Councilmember Kathy Burke Gonzalez.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass carries.
I'm recused. 2023-1075 is to authorize a payment for Frank Vespi, and we're looking for Mr. Vespi to film the September 14th, 2023 Creative Networking Night event that the East Hampton Arts Council is sponsoring at the East Hampton Library. And this is at a cost of $300.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass and carry.
1076 is to authorize a trip to the United States Life-Saving Association National Lifeguard Championships that's being held August 9th through August 12th in Virginia Beach. And this is so that 18 lifeguards can go out of service and attend the championship, and also allows Hampton Lifeguard Association to take the lifeguard boat and the trailer and other equipment that they need for the competition to Virginia Beach as well.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass and carry. We wish them luck.
1077 is approval of special event permits. We've got the Chamber Music Society of Montauk. They're doing the Exquisite Hour Classical Chamber Music Concert at the Carol Morrison Park in Fort Pond House, Tuesday, August 8th, from 6 to 8 p.m. Montauk Point Lighthouse is doing a ribbon cutting ceremony at the lighthouse Wednesday, August 16th, from 5 to 7 p.m. The Animal Rescue Fund is putting on the Bow Wow Meow Ball. It's not often I get to say that on camera. Saturday, August 19th from 6:30 to 11:30 p.m. And Share the Harvest Farm is putting on Cocktails and More annual fundraiser at Eco Farm. That's over on Long Lane, and that's Sunday, August 6th from 5 to 8 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass and carry.
I would like to offer Resolution 2023-1078. It's to waive the fees for the 395 Panagle Road Final Subdivision Project, which is a 16-lot subdivision for affordable housing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass and carried.
1079 is a budget modification for aquaculture, bring $1,500 from part-time salaries to overtime.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass carried.
1080 is a accepted donation of a drone from New York State, where Long Island is home to pristine coastal property and where tens of thousands of residents and visitors each summer spend time enjoying the multitude of beaches. Recognizing the need for increased diligence and shark monitoring of these beaches, Governor Kathy Hochul directed state funding towards the purchase of drones that would be given to affected municipalities. East Hampton Town is mostly appreciated to these efforts by Governor Hochul. The accepted donation of the following of the drone at a cost of $6,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass and carried.
And I have Resolution 1081, which is a release of security urban renewal parcel 27 in SB 2-1. Whereas a report has been received from the town's engineer approving road work, and a request has been made that the town board return security posted for said road work be it resolved that the following security held by the town board is hereby released, and the town clerk is directed to return the same to the principal party named thereon, and that's Carlos Bermeo, care of Handy Hands Inc., 191 Gardners Avenue, East Hampton, New York, and this is for Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-60-5-1501, and the amount is $24,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass carried. Resolution 1083 is to
I have
accept.
1082.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumping.
Resolution 1082 is a budget modification for engineering, and the budget modification is directed to make the following modification for services performed by LK McLean Associates in relation to renewing a town tank operating permit. And this will be moving $5,000 from contingencies to outside professional in the same amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass and carried. Resolution 1083 is to accept the assignment and assumption of the Likey Montauk Laundromat ground lease. And this authorizes supervisor to authorize and execute the assignment and assumption of lease agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass and carried. 1084. To authorize retention of counsel press by Cooley LLP 223. 2023, and that is in the amount not to exceed $43,700.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, pass and carried. 1085 is managing police records training. It resolves that Administrative Assistant Amanda Bennett and Associate Administrator Nicole Cito, Lieutenant Daniel Toya, Lieutenant Chelsea Tierney are hereby authorized to attend the Managing Police Records Seminar sponsored by PRI Group to be held August 8th and not in an amount not to exceed $809.10.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. 1086 is training for the police department. And this is resolved that Daniel Toya, Sergeant Ryan Hogan, Administrative Assistant Amanda Bennett, Caroline Toomey, Account Clerk Bridget McAuliffe, and Dorothy Peel hereby authorized to attend redacting records. And that is for to be held remotely on August 23rd at an amount not to exceed $620.10 rather.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 1087 is fuel reimbursement. And that is for not to exceed $150. And that's for the Chief Sarlo. Authorizing use of motorcycles for Police Officer Nicholas Lloyd and Officer Lucas Pick.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. 1088 is to authorize payment outstanding calls invoice, and that's in the amount of $670.03.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Resolution 1089 is to amend Chapter 112, Community Preservation. You have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 1090 is to amend Chapter 160, Community Housing Opportunity Fund.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 1091 is to approve the agreement body cameras Axion Enterprises East Hampton Town Police Department. And that is for department department dated I think it should say 8/13. There's an ampersand instead of an 8. Or 8/13 to be maybe 7/13. Anyway, that needs to be corrected. This is to enter into an agreement with Axon Enterprises for the provision of BWCs, body worn cameras, related to software equipment, set forth in said proposal, a total cost of $972,045.50 payable over a 60-month term, as set forth in their proposal, payable annually with initial payment of $422,672.60 in September of 2023, a subsequent payment of $137,343.23 September 24, further payments September 25, September 2026, and September 2027 in the amount of $137,343.22.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed carried. 1092 is the completion of a probationary period for police officer Tyler Gilbride. And that would be effective retroactive April 20th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed carried. Resolution 1093. It's completion of probationary period for Officer Michael Gomez. And that would be effective retroactive to January 5th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 1094 is a budget modification for the Finance Department. This would be moving $72,000 from interest on investments to outside professional in the same amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. There are a few additional resolutions.
Sure. I have Resolution 2023-1095, and this is to authorize a loan agreement for East Hampton Housing Authority's installation of solar at Avalon Apartments. They're looking to take a loan out from IPC and in the amount of $100,000. The term of the loan is 20 years. The period of probable usefulness is 25 years. We have the ability to guarantee the loan, and this is so that they can move forward with the solar project at the Avalon Apartments in Montauk.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
I'd like to offer Resolution 2023-1096. This is for Jacobson to schedule a public hearing for CPF Project Plan Addition. Tax map is the state for Bonnie Jacobson, Brad Jacobson, trustee, and Eric Jacobson, trustee, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-39-1-2. The public hearing will be held on August 17, 2023 at 11 a.m. The property is located at 34 Fenmarsh Road in Springs.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
1097 is Jacobson to schedule a public hearing for acquisition and amend the 2023 Management and Stewardship Plan. The purported owners of the estate of Bonnie Jacobson, Brad Jacobson, trustee, and Eric Jacobson, trustee. Location is 34 Fenmarsh Road, Springs. Tax map 300-39-1-2. It's 0.94 acres of land located at 34 Fenmarsh Road in Springs. The proposed purchase price is $1.75 million. The public hearing will be held on August 17th at 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
I have Resolution 1098, it's amend Resolution 2023-1057. This is the effective start date, and Resolution 1057 will be changed for Jeremy Katzman's start date to be retroactive to August 1st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
1095 is retain L.K. McLean Associates for professional engineering services at the blacksmith shop. We're accepting proposal dated July 20th, 2023 to provide design, bid, construction administration, and part-time construction inspection at a lump sum price estimate cost of $16,960.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
1100 is authorized payment to Cooley for 2022 Elevate invoice. This is for $12,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
1101 is notice bidders for EH 2023-034. This is for the refuse collection truck for 2023. The bid is available August 10th, 2023, and the bid is due back August 24th, 2023. Any further questions, please contact our purchasing department at 631-324-4183.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
1102 is accept the bid for EH 23-029. This is for the joint fuel facilities maintenance service to Metro Environmental Services LLC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
1103 is a budget modification for buildings and grounds, moving $2,000 from health insurance to the same amount for safety.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Resolution 1104 is to notice a public hearing for a local law, amend Chapter 37 Department Head Bonus Compensation Program, and that will be held on September 7th at 2 p.m. or soon thereafter, as the matter may be heard.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Resolution 1105 is notice of public hearing 2024 Section 8 Administrative Plan. And that hearing will be held on September 7th at 2 p.m. or soon thereafter, as the matter may be heard.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Resolution 1106 is to accept bid EH 23-026, pavement marking at the airport, J.J. Cunningham, general contractor, and that is in the amount of $194,563.20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Resolution, gotta go back to the previous page. 1107 is a budget modification at the airport to accommodate that bid for $194,564, moving from unappropriated unreserved surplus into subcontracted costs in the same amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Any other resolutions or matters spring before the board?
I just wanted to say that the Travis Field softball tournament starts tonight, and folks want to go down there and watch the games. They'll be played throughout the weekend, and it's a fun time, and it's a real community event.
Great local event. I will entertain a motion to go into exec session.
I make a motion to go into exec session to discuss an enforcement issue, real estate, and litigation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed carried. I'll send out the link. Shall we reconvene in 10 minutes?
Sure.
Great.
Sounds
Thank you
good.
so much, everyone. Stay safe and be well.